Hey y'all, I'm McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates, and today's question that every home buyer should ask is, how do I win a multiple offer situation? Everybody wishes that they could just make an offer to the seller on their terms and have the seller accept it. But truth of the matter is, that's not normally how it works. And it's particularly not how it works when you have multiple offers on the table. So this multiple offer situation or competitive offer or bidding war, whatever you want to call it, the seller is in the driver's seat for the negotiation. They're really in a strong position. Definitely on that seller's market side of the buyer's market, seller's market conversation. The seller in this position is really looking out for their own interests. And so you as a buyer are, of course, looking out for your own interests. That's part of it. What makes sense for me as a buyer? But you should always consider the seller's interest in the negotiation. I think that's always just an important part of negotiating. But you really need to consider them in a competitive situation, because that could cost you or cause you to get the house in a competitive situation. So let's talk a little bit about this. What if there are 5 offers? What if there are 10 offers, 20 offers? There's a few things that we can talk about or do that set you up for success. And I have done videos on this as well, specifically on how to win competitive offers, how to beat multiple offers, how to beat cash offers. So I'll link those up, but we can talk about that a little bit here in this video. As a buyer, there's a few things that you can do. So we're gonna talk about price. So how much are you offering? And then the terms of your contract. What are you offering to the seller, and on what terms are you offering that price? And then what are your contingencies? How are you protecting yourself and your earnest money? The seller is looking for generally 2 things. They're looking for the highest price, and they're looking for a guarantee that the sale is going to close. Those are generally the 2 things that a seller is looking for. There are other things sometimes, but those are generally the 2 big factors in this negotiation: price, and are they going to get that price? So as a buyer, things you can do, you can either be a cash buyer or be what's called pre-underwritten. So you've essentially got all your financing ducks in a row. The other things you can do as a buyer, you can offer the maximum amount of earnest money, the 5%. You could be really aggressive with your terms. You could have no contingencies on your contract, and you could essentially give the earnest money up front to the seller. So you could have a crazy awesome price. You could have no contingencies, and you could give all your earnest money to the seller. They like that situation because for them, they've got more of a guarantee than the buyer that has a lower price or even the same price and then is protecting themselves a bunch, has a lot of contingencies around their earnest money. The seller's going to, if you were the seller, you got to put yourself in their shoes. Which offer would you choose? The one that's protecting themselves a bunch and has the same price, or the same price or very close to it and no protection at all for themselves? That's the tension. So as a buyer, you need to decide, first of all, how much do you like this house? And I talk about in some of these other videos, what's your walkaway point? What's that point where you're like, another buyer can have this house? So what's that price? And then what amount of risk are you willing to take on as a buyer? Because the more risk you're willing to take on as a buyer, the quicker you'll find yourself in a house in a competitive situation. Now again, in a perfect world, you're not up against multiple offers, you're not in a bidding war. It's almost like a cuss word in Seattle. But as a buyer, you're going to come up against it. Even in slower markets, there's still great houses, and sometimes those really great houses have bidding wars even in slower markets because they're awesome and the location's awesome and people really like it. What you need to do is decide, okay, what's my price? What are my terms and contingencies? And how aggressive am I going to be? And those are conversations that you can have with me, with your agent. And like I said, I'll link up those other videos for you so you can get some more information.